The Pentagon began monitoring the 4 Russian warships as they crossed the Atlantic and conducted live-fire exercises intended to simulate an attack on enemy ships. Early Wednesday, Russian warships were seen entering the port of Havana. Echoes of the Cuban Missile Crisis in October 1962, when Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev reached a secret deal with Fidel Castro to place Soviet nuclear missiles 90 miles from Key West, Florida.
That a series of offensive missile sites.
President Kennedy ordered a naval quarantine. It was the closest the two countries had ever come to nuclear war. On Tuesday, Russian warships sailed less than 30 miles off Florida's south coast. Ships from the U.S. Second Fleet, U.S. Fourth Fleet, and U.S. Coast Guard Atlantic area shadowed them. U.S. intelligence assesses there are no nuclear weapons on board these ships, but the Russian flotilla does include the Kazan nuclear-powered submarine. The Pentagon downplayed the provocative exercises in its backyard.
This is not a surprise. We've seen them do these type of port calls before. We, of course, take it seriously, but these exercises don't pose a threat to the United States.
In Moscow, Russia's foreign minister thanked his Cuban counterpart for taking Russia's side in Ukraine.
We are grateful to our Cuban friends for their principled position on the situation around Ukraine. From the very beginning, Havana assessed the ongoing events, outlining absolutely correct.
It's notable that Russia did not send its only aircraft carrier, the Admiral Kuznetsov, to Cuba. It's currently out of service. Also notable that Ukraine has sunk nearly half of Russia's Black Sea fleet in the past 2 years, including a prize submarine. At the Pentagon, Jennifer Griffin, Fox News.
And so he says that bringing Russia here is his decision, that Russia is his choice of a weapon to punish the United States for long-standing sins that have become synonymous with the flag and the eagle. Synonymous means that you see the flag and you know what it stands for. So when you see the U.S. flag, you know it signifies America. But God says that when you see the flag and the eagle, you see certain sins: abortion, murder, homosexuality, human sacrifice, and global promotion of sexual immorality that has corrupted all the nations. So you see the flag and you know spiritually, if you are an honest Christian, what goes on here and what the flag is actually protecting underneath it. But God says that not only are those sins protected here, but they are promoted around the world. And chief among those sins is sexual immorality. So here, a young boy may be struggling with masturbation, and the pastor, his mother will bring him to the pastor because both the mother and the young boy are seeking to know, is this really bad? Because the boy can't stop. And the pastor is going to say something like, oh, it's a boy's growing pains, because apparently he and Jesus decided that masturbation is not part of sexual immorality. And so what happens is, in the heart of the mother, there is relief. Why? Because a religious figure, a leader, a pastor has told her this is not bad. And the boy feels relieved because who can blame him for his adolescent growing pains? The problem is that the Bible says that sexual activity is between a man and a woman who are married. So men and women, maybe not man and woman and woman, but even men and women who are dating or courting or widowed or divorced and seeing other people, are not supposed to engage in sexual activity. But when religious leaders are abdicating keeping the moral line in a country, what will happen is that that nation will become a nation that constantly wants to disrobe itself. And those who have studied history knows that nakedness is one of the primary signs that God is getting ready to judge, burn, and destroy a country. It doesn't matter if it was Atlantis, it doesn't matter if it was Pompeii, it doesn't matter if it was the Greeks or the ancient Romans. As long as you want to be naked, just know that judgment is on the way, and it's usually a harsh and devastating one in which that civilization never rises again. So the Lord said that Russia will come to the United States because he will put it in their heart. God will bring them here. God will draw them here and make it like an imperative, like you must do this. They will almost be fanatical about this project. And the Lord is saying that as the Russians are working on their invasion and putting things together, they will literally think it is their idea. They will think that they're working out the greatest revenge plan ever planned. But they don't know that God put the seed into the heart of Vladimir Putin and all his ministers and all his cabinet and all those boys that are working out in Siberia with bears or whatever they train with. He put it into their heart to do this. And this was a long-planned punishment from God for this country. He says that for all the wars America has done and punishment of all her sins over the years, it is not the aliens, it is not the transhumanists, it is not the Nephilim, but it will be Russia that is God's great signature repayment to America. He said that Russia will do exactly what America has done in war to other countries. And I will detail as I was reading Isaiah 13, all the pictures of things that they have done, that God said they have done, and if you do even the tiniest bit of research, you will actually find little articles and professional papers written that they have done these things, but the majority of Americans either don't know because they don't bother to look, or they just support the boys because that's what patriots do, or they know and they don't care. So Russia will be how God repays America for her sins, and she will do exactly what America has done in war to other nations. And I said that I was amazed because God never leaves this out in the Russia prophecy. He never leaves out the reminder that the cruelty that Russia, China, and allies will show here is an exact mirror held up to the face of the United States. So when wars are covered here, they're very one-sided, and they're always sold to us as we had to do this. We had to go into these places and snatch these people and bundle them up in blankets and fly them here without rule of law because we had to do it because they're bad. And even though people are adults, they sit there and believe it. And so God always wants to remind that whatever Russia does, Russia will be doing because America has done it, and Russia will be America's mirror to show her, meaning the citizens, who will be thinking, why is this happening? If you watch this video, God is saying, this is why it is happening. Whatever the United States has done overseas, away from the public, away from the eyes of the world, and hidden from its own media, this is what will happen here. America will be repaid with the cup of her own drunkenness, and her people will see what soldiers and the military really do when they go to war. Anything that will seem wicked to Americans when they see Russia doing it here, it is what America has done. It is a reenactment of America's own sins. Reenact simply means to replay something that happened before. And so I saw here that Russians will not have tolerance for the American habit of talking back. So this is a special gift that is uniquely American. Even here, I see it. I will read a prophecy that doesn't come from me and the breakfast that I had. I'm reading out a vision or a dream that the Lord gave me, along with stern warnings of what he said. And then people are like, that's not going to happen. We don't believe you. Who are you? And a lot of stuff. But the Russians are not going to be as patient as I am. I saw that if Russia gave instructions when they were taking people out and taking them to these centers and putting them in lines and stuff like that, I saw that people still wanted to talk back. So a situation that is so deadly, a situation that should tell anyone who is wise, this is not the time to talk. This is a very dangerous situation. This should be the time where you actually listen. Maybe because you're a single person and you don't have anyone else that you're responsible for as you're in those detention centers, but maybe because you're a father and you have your wife and your 3 children there and you really want to see them make it. But I saw that people just could not resist the urge to talk and protest and be mad and do everything. And the Russians pushed people on the ground and put their boot on their head. So I saw that they pushed them. It's very strange. It's exactly what you see in the movies, how they grab Arab people and stuff and they push them on the ground. They're like, rah, 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 rah. So the Russians were doing that, except it was way worse because they were doing it not in English, but in their language. So you can't even understand what these 5 men are yelling at you. I saw that they put people on the ground because they were, and here are the Lord's words, defiant, loud, disobedient, and Russia punished that very harshly by pointing guns at people and stepping on their heads. And the Lord said to me, this is exactly what American soldiers do in war. Another thing was they lined up people in line and they squeezed women's breasts. And the Lord said, American soldiers have forcibly touched the breasts of women and assaulted the women of other countries, and they never faced any consequences. Therefore, it is the women of this nation who will pay the price for those things. I saw that the Russians spoke with cruelty and mockery in their tone because America does it to others. And so I saw them touching the breasts of women who were very scared in line. I've shared this before, that I was once working on Facebook and I saw this vision live. Lines and lines of naked people, and normally God will show me nakedness from the back so I don't have to see people's frontal nakedness because he doesn't actually hide it. He sometimes will hide it by making it blurry, but sometimes I just see things as they are, and this one was one of those as they are because I was working on a post concerning holiness, and this fire began to burn all over me as I was writing this holiness post on Facebook, and God just began to pour out this vision on me. I saw people standing naked in line, black people, Asian people, white people, whoever lives here. I saw those people had been gathered as captives, and they were standing in line, and there was a woman in front, and she had a nipple ring, and the soldier, a Chinese soldier, please excuse the noise, a Chinese soldier walked right up and ripped the ring out of her nipple, and she was in such agony, but because her hands were shackled, she couldn't do anything about it except scream and bend. Please excuse the noise. And they were just going down the line of naked people, and these soldiers are of different ethnicities. And so I saw that some of the soldiers were interested in women who have exotic features. I'm talking about gray eyes, green eyes, blue eyes, blonde hair, red hair, And this was mostly the Chinese soldiers, because this is considered exotic to them, because this is not natural to their population. Everyone usually has darker hair, darker eyes in the Asian population. But I also saw that people were interested in the voluptuousness of Black women, Latin women, and things like that. And so it was a very dire and painful situation. And the Lord was saying to me that this is the judgment upon a sexually immoral culture. I have said it in many videos. God says that if people don't love clothes, enjoy it now, because people who practice this lifestyle of just really pervasive nakedness. I'm not talking about perhaps an off-the-shoulder gown or wherever it is when you're going. I'm talking about this every single part of the sexual part of a person out and proud on purpose. And this is practiced even in the alternative lifestyle communities. And people should just understand that God is a very patient person, but a day comes when patience will pass away, grace will pass away, and judgment will come. And when judgment comes, I'm not going to pretend that I didn't see what I saw. I saw what I saw, and I still see it, and I will say it as I see it. They were touching the breasts of women, and they were smiling. And one of the things that God says will be part of the cruelty of this invasion is that these soldiers will take wives. And I explained in that prophecy, whichever one it was, is that taking a wife doesn't mean proposing to a woman. A man is going to randomly sleep with whoever he fancies. If you are caught and you are in these centers and there's no favor of God on you, because I'm not going to pretend that this will be completely exempting Christians, it will not. But if God is not holding a woman or holding a man aside, these people I saw took wives just how they wanted. And that basically meant that they singled you out and liked you and slept with you. And the other soldiers, the Lord showed me, automatically then saw you as this man's wife. So they would not come near you. Even when they were doing their shifts and rotations and whatever, you belonged exclusively to that person. And the term for it, I found out, is like comfort women, that this man is far from home, his family is far away, and he will just relieve his sexual needs on that person, because that person's previous lifestyle was permissive and sexual, and they didn't care about God and his laws. And who is God to tell me that I have to get married before I can have sex? Who is God? People have said to me, why is God so obsessed with other people's bodies anyway? And I just keep quiet, because if you are so dull that you don't understand that the body you have is a gift, that it is on loan, that it is something that has been given to you to steward, that you are a guest in this body and it's a gift to you, then who am I to, there's no point in engaging in pointless things. So